Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this afternoon session on Rehearsal Live Share. As I said, this set of sessions on solutions for teaching is an opportunity for us to hear and see from a variety of people in our industry, some tools that will hopefully help some of us in the work that we're doing. And so I'm really happy to have Jeff Lazarus and David Smith here from Rehearsal Live Share. Just a side note, David Smith is also known as Mr. Laurie McCann in NATS world. And so you guys come on and share your cameras, and really happy to welcome you guys here to be with us today. And I know that some of the technologies you guys have had for many years have been used worldwide. And so I know you'll talk a little bit about that, but you've been working on some exciting new things as well. So I'm going to turn it over to Jeff and David.
Okay, thank you, Alan.
Thank you.
We're really happy to be here, and thank you to NATS. We're excited to show you this. So first of all, I want to start with a short presentation. This will be about 20 minutes. I'm going to get going with live with the screen share here. Let's make sure I got this rolling right. Okay, can everyone see?
Yes.
Okay, good. So, thank you again for this opportunity. We're really excited to spread the word about our new technology, Rehearsal Live Share. Let me start by giving some quick background of who we are. Real-Time Music Solutions provides software services for the live performance community. We've been doing it for over 20 years. Our main focus has been the theater industry. Among our credits are world tours of Porgy and Bess, many Broadway national tours, most recently of West Side Story, several years on the London West End production of Les Miserables, work on a bunch of Cirque du Soleil productions, and school musicals on 6 continents. When COVID-19 hit, we knew we were in big trouble. Our main markets were live theater and schools, both of which were completely shut down. Our survival depended on a serious pivot. So we considered our strengths and experience, and pretty much on day 1 of lockdown in March, our entire team dropped all other projects and began work on what was a fairly obvious need, a good remote rehearsal technology. The first thing we thought we'd do was hop on the Zoom bandwagon. Zoom was and remains the runaway success when it comes to remote meetings. And they have a pretty good development platform when it comes to building third-party apps. We thought we'd create the definitive Zoom rehearsal add-on. But Zoom's business-centric design quickly made it clear it wouldn't work for what we wanted to do. As much as I admire Zoom and use it all the time, including here, it's built around the concept of one person talking and then the next, and so on in succession. It even has algorithms to filter and block signals it considers to be subordinate sounds. Its model is antithetical to the concept of collaborative music making, where not all the time, but a lot of the time, there are at least 2 sounds happening simultaneously. So we scrapped the Zoom idea and decided to build something from scratch. But we ran into problems right away. And that was due to a long-known technical issue called buffer bloat. When you have a group of people participating in an internet-based video session of any kind, you have to understand each participant will access the internet differently. Each may go through a different service provider, and those providers will use differing equipment and buffering schemes when they process the signal. You may hear a signal a quarter second late, while your colleague hears it a half second after that. Everybody on this webinar right now is hearing my voice at a slightly different time. This variation is acceptable in the context of a business meeting, but not when making music. Now, we're not the first to approach this problem specifically as it relates to music. And we've experimented with a few of the programs that exist. In our judgment, you can have a degree of success with them, but they require a lot of technical fussiness. For example, they require all participants to have a hardwired Ethernet connection, a rarity when most people expect to do things over Wi-Fi. They also demand that people tweak their router settings, a daunting task for even the technically savvy. We thought we could do better. So, the holy grail, the thing everyone wants, is the ability to perform as if they're in the same room. They want to hear everyone in real time making those micro adjustments you do on the fly to have an ensemble performance feel. No doubt that would be incredible. But we came to the conclusion that in any practical sense, that ideal is beyond the current state of technology. At the same time, though, we had an epiphany. We could still create something groundbreaking by letting go of the grail and slightly narrowing scope. After all, rehearsal encompasses a lot more than that performance ideal. In our model, there are two distinct roles, a director and one or more participant. Our technology behaves differently depending on your role. Everybody has a local copy of the underlying music, but as the name suggests, the director is in control. When he or she hits play, music starts on each participant's local machine. Each participant sings along to that playback and will not hear the other participants, at least not in the first round. More on that later. All participants, however, will hear the director. So feedback and commentary can occur in real time. And here's the beauty part. As each participant sings, those audio signals are sent to the director and are collated as they travel over the internet. So the director receives a synchronized multi-track ensemble feed. This is the way we resolve the typical latency associated with buffer bloat. It's a unidirectional approach akin to a vocal teacher instructing the voice lesson pupil, or from the participant perspective, running individual parts in a choral rehearsal. We acknowledge it's not the same as hearing everybody as if you're in the same room. Our priority is the highest sound quality delivered simultaneously. We've decided not to let the perfect be the enemy of the good. And in so doing, we believe we're onto something that's a real leap forward in remote rehearsal. Now, before going further, I want to take a minute to show Rehearsal Live Share's underlying playback engine. We've been able to build RLS quickly because we're drawing on over 20 years of music technology development. I'm going to show a quick video overview of our RMS Coach resource. RMS Coach is the launching ground for Rehearsal Live Share. You'll hear it described in terms of musical theater, but I want to stress, it's not limited to that. We have an RMS Coach Creator platform, and with that, really anything is possible. It's just a matter of what you make or acquire yourself.
Hi, I'm Paul Hockman for Real-Time Music Solutions. Okay, let's say you're producing a high school musical and you've settled on Sound of Music. Good for you, Maria. Captain Von Trapp. The only problem? 30 vocal parts to teach and only one piano and one you. Solution? RMS Coach, a powerful rehearsal tool that gives every cast member on-demand access to all the piano and vocal parts in your production. Now, anyone with a computer can rehearse independently at home with accompaniment that they can customize for their individual part. Easily isolate or mute parts, adjust volume and tempo, even transpose to a more comfortable key with just a few clicks. How? It's simple. Clear navigation menus for different characters and songs are at the bottom of the screen, and at the top, controls for tempo, time signature, and key. It's easy to cue up any moment of the musical to fine-tune in a flash. And when your cast gets together, it's not just you pumping away at the piano. Anyone with a computer can customize accompaniment for a specific rehearsal. Say, when your cast members break into groups to practice choreography or want to perfect a tricky harmony. Want proof? Download a completely free trial of RMS Coach today with full functionality. Your cast, better rehearsed. You, better rested. I'm Paul Hochman for Real Time Music Solutions.
So, how far along are we? Well, the one-on-one version of RLS is available right now. It's a good fit for voice lessons or coaching situations. We're getting ready to launch the first multi-participant version, hopefully around the 4th of July, pretty soon. And I'm going to do a little demo of both of these. I'll start with the current one-on-one version on the next slide. You'll see members of our plucky RMS staff gamely pretending we're all real singers. Here's the first look at Rehearsal Live Share in the one-on-one context, featuring the talents of our team members, Stephen Wood and David Horwitz.
So what are you feeling today? Oh, little beautiful morning. Some Poor Judd's Dead.
Let's do my favorite song in this show, which is Poor Judd is Dead.
All right, that's a happy little tune for everybody. Okay, so I'm the director here, so anything that I do on this side will happen on David's side. I changed to Poor Judd, and it changed to Poor Judd on his side. I'm going to go ahead and hit play, and it's going to play on his side. But his voice is going to come over to my side, and I'm going to hear it all in time with the music. I'm going to go ahead and mute Curly's part here so that we don't have a MIDI piano playing along with David's beautiful singing voice. And I think that's it. You ready, David?
I'm ready.
Excellent. Here we go.
Poor Judd is dead. Poor Judd.
Okay, up a bit more. Kind of.
All gather round his coffin
Excellent.
now and cry. He had a heart of gold, and he wasn't very old. Oh, why did such a fella have to die?
Beautiful. Excellent. And as you saw there, yeah, thank you. As you saw there, I was able to listen to his performance and watch him and give him a note in the middle, and he was able to course correct. This is just one of the features of Rehearsal Live Share. Thanks for watching.
So before moving on to the multi-participant demo, I want to go over the various views available in Rehearsal Live Share. Here we have a basic gallery view. This is like Zoom and most of the video conferencing platforms that are out there. A basic grid displaying everyone involved. But now we move into more unique territory, the director view. On the surface, it may look like the speaker view in Zoom, but what's going on is the participants all see the director, always, while the director, as a default, sees the dominant voice. From there, he or she can arrow navigate to the other voices, a necessary concept when more than one person may be singing at the same time. And lastly, we have the mixer view. The name says it all, but we believe it stands alone in the world of video conferencing. Here, you can mute, adjust panning, and mix the relative volumes of the voices and underlying accompaniments. And with that said, I will now present a demo of the multi-participant Rehearsal Live Share. Once again, you'll see and hear our wannabe singer staff, Steve and David, now joined by Ellen Warner and yours truly, directed by David Smith.
Okay, so I'm just going to start. We're going to go for it.
Bye, bye, baby. Stop yawning. Don't cry, baby.
returning to a quick screenshot from that video, that was a run through in real time with 4 singers and a director. It could use some tightening up, but as an early rehearsal, it's probably not dissimilar from what you might experience in the practice room. Now though, let me point out this other feature. It may be hard to see in the presentation, but down here is a record button. This allows you to capture a multi-channel recording of the session, which can then be shared back to the participants. So when I mentioned earlier, the participants only hear themselves, that's not necessarily always true. After the first go-around, they can also hear recordings of their fellow participants, all individually controllable in the mixer view. Furthermore, those recordings would be available for practicing outside the RLS session. We're now a little over 3 months into what by rights should be a multi-year project. We're really proud of what we've accomplished in a short amount of time, but we are still in early stages. After we put out the first multi-participant version, here's what we aim to pull off by the beginning of the next academic school year. At the moment, RLS demands a lot of computer resources. I feel like I've lost my screen here. Hang on, let's start this again. Sorry about that. So at the moment, RLS demands a lot of computer resources, at least for the director role. We plan to optimize that to make it easier to get ever larger ensembles in on a session. We plan to integrate RLS into our RMS Mix resource. RMS Mix is our multi-track audio playback engine. So while what I've discussed so far, RMS Coach, is based around MIDI technologies, RMS Mix will bring the rehearsal live share concept to traditional recorded audio. This means you can simply upload any recording of the accompaniment and use that as the synchronizing element. The director will be able to assign one participant to a soloist role, which will then allow everyone to hear that soloist during a run-through. We plan to post new releases regularly throughout the summer and beyond, fixing bugs, improving what we have, and adding new features along the way. So anyone who wants to give this a try can download a free trial from our website, www.rms.biz. Right now, RLS doesn't exist as an independent product. It's incorporated into our RMS Coach resource. So you'll want to download that to get started. The licensing model for user-created content is based on a monthly or annual subscription. The price as of July 1 is $9.99 a month or $99 per year. The model also assumes users will supply their own content, which in the beginning means MIDI content. For those who don't know how to do that, we'll help you. We also plan to build a community to connect experienced MIDI and audio developers with users to speed the process along. Of course, we have no intention of stopping development in September. We see the potential of this technology to provide incredibly powerful and flexible ways of using our approach. We can do anything, but we cannot do everything at once. We have a long list of ideas, but we need to ensure the focus of our development efforts aligns with your needs. We are offering this early access to the technology so we can work with you, hear your concerns, and work to discover what needs to be incorporated to continually refine and improve the way RLS is deployed. And that concludes the presentation. And my partner, David Smith, and I would like to now open things up to questions. Okay, am I visible? All right, so I'm actually not sure how we get the questions.
I have a list, Jeff. So
okay.
I've been polling it, and some of the questions I believe were asked, and then Jeff already answered it. But I'll go ahead. All the questions are great questions, I think. So the first one is, do we RMS record accompaniments in parts? And part of that immediately after that was, how do you get the rights to Poor Jed or Sound of Music, etc.? So
Okay,
there's the first question.
Yeah, our history has been with musical theater. So this NATS thing is new and very exciting to us. But when it comes to the musical theater content, we have deals with the various licensing houses where our products are offered as ancillary services. So that handles the rights question. And yes, we do develop that content ourselves. However, you know, the difference between a musical theater entity versus an average recital or concert is, with musical theater, you're always dealing with the same 30 songs every time it's performed, thereabouts. Whereas a concert, a choral concert, could be anything. So it's not our intention to try to catch up with that infinite realm of possibilities for content. The idea here is that users will create the content they need.
Right. And the next question then was, will there be a recording at the end of it? And I think that was right before Jeff pointed out the record button. So I believe that answered that particular question. Yes, the result of the rehearsal will then be recorded and then can be shared back with the students. If people have more specific questions about that, please go ahead and put it into the chat, or and we'll go ahead and answer it. The next one is, and this question has happened a couple of times. Jeff had mentioned the $9.99 a month, and then the question was, is there a cost for students or only the teacher? And the way that this works, I'll answer this because I know this part, is that the director license, the license pays for the director, and then any student that adds on would be free of charge.
And basically, the person who's charged is the person who creates content and initiates the sessions. Anybody else who participates in the session, a student, for example, would not have to pay.
Right. And okay, so the next question is, how many of the multiple participants can be seen at the same time? And I think this is an area, and of course, Jeff will beat this up at the office, is there is always questions about screen space and how that's organized. We're very interested in developing the screen space so that it's optimized for the needs of this community. And so we look forward to seeing what your needs are in that particular area. Do you want to add to that, Jeff? Or
well, I may be misunderstanding the question. I think there are two parts. There's, what can you physically see on the screen? I think in that case, it depends on what view you're in. If you're in gallery, you can expect an experience that's similar to Zoom, where the more people you add to the session, the more the thumbnail will decrease, so you can fit more people into the window that you have. In the case of the mixer view, I think right now on a typical laptop, you can probably get about 10 people or so, and then including a channel that's for the accompaniment, and then you can use arrows to navigate to people who are off screen. So there's that angle, but the question may be more directed at the point of, well, how many people can you just get on a session, period, regardless of how many you see? And the answer to that is theoretically unlimited, but there are issues associated with bandwidth and the computer speed. Right now, we've had success with about 5 or 6. I feel confident that we'll get to 15 or so by the fall, and we can go beyond that. We just have to go through the work of optimizing it. And the more we work on it, the more we're going to be able to get onto a session. And I should also point out that the strain happens on the director's side, not on the participant side. So the director needs the best computer. And the better that computer is, and the better director's connection is to the internet, the smoother the experience is all around.
Thank you. The next question, I think, really gets to the center of our philosophy about what we're doing here and trying to deal with the unavoidable issue of latency over public IP. I know that people have been experimenting with different types of delivery systems, sound jack, or these types of things where they can get latency down to perhaps 30 to 50 milliseconds. Jeff touched on this briefly before in talking about the fussiness and how difficult it is to make those particular connections. Even with those, you're still getting a 50 millisecond delay. However, when you're on IP internet, there's no guarantee whatsoever what that delay time is going to be. And because of that, the important part about this is that the voices arrive simultaneously to the director, but it's impossible for to have sideways communications without also adding 125, 200, 500 milliseconds of delay. So we discovered in our experiments, and I think that you can imagine this as well, if everybody is singing, but they're hearing everybody else a third of a second later, it's going to pose tremendous problems with ensemble playing. And so the way that we've done this is that no student hears the other students while they're performing that time through. However, if you do have a record button, we have a recording on the second time through. What you can do is that you can play the recording and turn off only your voice, and now the student is singing along with the last time that we sang through. This is an area that we, of course, want to develop and refine in terms of what works best for the needs of the rehearsal people. But at the moment, it would be impossible for students to hear each other with the latency issues that are currently with IP internet. You want to add anything to that, Jeff? Or?
No, that's good.
Okay, so
I mean, I guess at the risk of repeating David in just a different way, what we're focused on is the synchronization that occurs for the music director. We acknowledge there's no way to get the proper latency synchronization when the others are hearing each other, but when the signal is sent and can be collated for the music director, that music director then gets a synchronized ensemble.
Right, and that's basically, you can't affect the past, and what you're trying to do with a non-latent rehearsal is to influence each other, but you can't affect something that's already happened. So anyway, it's an issue, and this is the approach that we're taking to resolve it. Let me find it. Okay, the next question: does the director teacher start the accompaniments or do the singers? In this case, the director starts, and that's what guarantees that we have the simultaneous performance. We don't want each of the students to have to hit play at the same time. It would be impossible with latency differences. Okay, so another question: can the participants control the channels of the recording after it's recorded on their end of playback? Go ahead, Jeff.
Yes.
Okay, I think that's all we have to say on that particular question. The next one is, what about copyright concerns? And I think we touched briefly in terms of acquiring rights. You know, copyright is something that we deal with all the time. And go ahead, Jeff.
Well, we're not taking responsibility for copyright. We are leaving it to the users to secure the rights for their performance. And our position, I guess, is similar to that of Google or Facebook, where users are putting up their own content. And they may sometimes put up content that belongs to someone else. If they haven't actually secured the rights, they may be asked to take that down. I don't anticipate a problem here, but just to be clear, we are not assuming responsibility for copyright. We're leaving that to the user.
Does each participant have to pay the $9.99 per month? And the answer is only those people that are instituting rehearsals, the director. Another question, I know that Jeff has received this question before. Is there institutional pricing?
Yeah, I have gotten that question. And to be honest, this is a new area for me. And I don't know what the implications are. I mean, the question has come up enough that I know I have to think about it and think it through. Right now, at least my knee-jerk reaction is to say that, you know, we've got what I think is a fairly inexpensive model, and if it's just a matter of each member of the institution that needs it to secure a subscription, I'm hoping that won't be a deal breaker. But certainly the question has come up and I need to research it, and we'll have more on that later.
Great.
I'd love to pop in here and just say a little bit about that, because in the concept that you're talking about here, really, I don't see the need for institutional licensing from the standpoint of, especially those who are doing ensemble kind of work. There's one director and there's a choir, or there's a small ensemble, or there's a music director for production, or there's a voice teacher who teaches their lessons. And at that inexpensive a price, it seems moot to go through all of the trouble to have institutional licensing, which I feel is quite complicated in structure, actually, both from the user end and from the business side end, in tracking all of that. I would also like to point out and ask you guys to just go back a little bit, because I don't know how many people really understand the earlier model of the licensing of, you know, show tracks and the whole genesis of what you've been doing before this a little bit, because I think it plays into people's understanding of the fact that, you know, like you said, for 20 years, basically, if I was doing My Fair Lady in my community theater in town and I bought my rights and got my scores from TAMS or wherever, probably the next email I get is, don't you want to use our rehearsal track service? And whatever they've named it. And that's these guys. So it's their technology that basically is being licensed to you if you've done this kind of thing before. And so they're just taking this one step further.
Yes,
Yeah, thanks, Alan.
Thanks, Alan. That's absolutely right. The meat and potatoes of our business has been, we work with the licensing houses, we develop various musicals. We have a number of different resources that are available for these shows. And once the rights are secured for any given show, My Fair Lady is a perfect example, then generally the licensing houses will say, oh, you might be interested in these other services to help you do your show. And when they then book those resources with us, it happens within a time frame that corresponds to their production. They've got, in general, we give unlimited rehearsal time once we know the dates of the show. The school or the community theater or the professional theater can unlock the content and be able to use it for as far in advance as they purchased it. And then once the run of the show is over, it turns off. But in this user-created content model, that wouldn't happen. In the RMS Creator, you're creating the content. It's really available to you as long as your subscription is active.
Right, and I think that that's really the powerful thing that we've added recently is the user-created content area. We've been going after this for a very long time. The way that we put shows in was very fussy, to use a term that Jeff used before, and it's very brittle in the way that things had to go and were very precise. But we spent a lot of time now being able to open that up to allow you to put in any kind of MIDI file for the coach and any kind of audio file for our mix platforms. And I think that's where it would end up here, because I would imagine a lot of you are envisioning, I've got a rehearsal pianist, I can get the rehearsal pianist to play the piece, I can then upload that as an audio file, and then we can use RLS as the rehearsal tool using an audio file under the hood.
What about, I know some people use these converters to change tracks into MIDI files. What's your position on that? How do you think that's might be? I think they're not very accurate, I hear.
Nope.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of them. I mean, I suppose it's possible depending on the music. If it's some kind of goose egg type of accompaniment, you might have more luck. But no, in our experience, it hasn't been very successful.
Good.
Yeah, it works all right if it's a single line. So if it's single audio, pitch, amplitude, etc., it can extract that sort of all right. As soon as you get into multi-part, it just falls apart, I think. Generally, though, if we're dealing with rehearsal and accompaniment and things like that, we're working with piano. There are unlimited ways of getting piano performance into MIDI. And if you're, full blown and you have a disc clavier, you can play double weighted action on an 88 note key and convert that into a MIDI track, which can be uploaded. And even another 88 note weighted keyboard or something like that is another way. Also, I believe there are a lot of these MIDI sequences that are floating around the internet right now of various levels of quality, I will point out. But certainly the embedded infrastructure of MIDI performance information that's in the public domain or otherwise available is pretty large. And we anticipate that if the community builds the way we think it is, that there would be a great opportunity for open source MIDI files that could support the needs of everybody. I think you only need one basic songbook, maybe, or you do Vinteriza, here's my basic Vinteriza, whatever the particular performance is. We hope that these will be able to be shared and the community will support that.
What about if we had one of those files, like you're saying, say we had somebody's Vinteriza and we wanted to slow it down here and speed it up there and customize it a little bit and save it. Then we could just do that and upload that version as a second version, correct?
Yeah. Yep, that's all doable within the RMS Coach interface. You could basically, draw a curve that represents a different accelerando. You can, sculpt rubato sections. You can also just globally say, I want to do this 10% slower. So all that's possible. You make your changes, you save that to the cloud. It becomes available to the people you're working with, and then the RLS session begins with that new version.
And so there are a lot of options here, and this is an area that we're really interested in exploring to find what really works the best, what doesn't work, what is compromised, what actually may provide improvements in terms of the way that we deliver instruction or rehearsal, even after we're no longer forced to be in different rooms from each other. And our hope is that we can have an embedded system that provides a lot of other opportunities that would be useful. But that's not why we're here. We want to figure out how to deal with this stuff right now. So I just had a point that people were asking for some links. People wanted to be able to get directly to it. I am able to share links on the Zoom message, but I'm not sure if I can get them out to all of our YouTube people. So how would you like us to do that?
I'll put them in YouTube.
Okay, so I'm going to post into it. Here is a link to the beta launch site, which gives you an opportunity to download the software. Here is a link which is our FAQ, how to get started with it. Here is a link about RMS Creator, which is how you can create your own materials and upload it into the system. And that's the introductory offer. And then this is the RMS. I'm sorry.
The introductory offer is about to expire. I don't want to build up too much expectations.
You have one day.
You have 1 day.
I'm sorry. And here is the RMS Creator information, introducing RMS Creator. I think I got the links, Jeff. Maybe there's a link I'm missing. But at least this is a good place to get started. We're very friendly. We respond quite well to inquiries, etc. So there you have that. And anything else, Alan, that you wanted to throw in at the moment, or should I just go back and churn through some more of these questions?
You're great that are on here.
Yeah.
What about rehearsing a cappella?
I'm sorry?
What about rehearsing a cappella?
Right. So what we would recommend for an a cappella piece is you would start with a MIDI sequence of the individual lines. Let's say it's a barbershop quartet, T1, T2, baritone, bass. You've got those lines, and once that's in place, first of all, you can rehearse as you're singing. If, let's say, I'm doing T2, I could hear the MIDI accompaniment of T1, bari, and bass, Or I could just hit the metronome to get the click, and the metronome serves as the synchronizing element, which then returns to the MD,
Great.
the director.
And then at that point, what you do is you take that recording, you replay the recording, and now you're listening to the other 3 people that were singing the last time before.
Right. So first go around, you're performing along with the MIDI line. Thereafter, you're recording with the real voices.
It's a little like if you have a table with 4 legs and you have to saw one off, and now another leg is a little rocky there. It's an iterative approach, but based on the realities of what latency is doing, we do not yet see the ability for people to hear each other as we've discussed before. But that's the nature of this particular model. So let me, okay. So, okay, this is a good question. What will happen with latency if every music program in the country decides to use this product? Well, we would be very happy if every music program in the country decided.
That would be a delightful problem. I don't, look, time will tell, but I don't see this being an issue because each connection right now is peer-to-peer. So it's not like, if we're lucky to have thousands of people signing up, it's not like thousands of people are taxing the system simultaneously. You each have your individual systems and your individual groups of whatever the number is, 5, 10, 15. And that's what's going to be your little element. Now, looking into the future, I'll say as we start to think about much bigger ensembles, which again are possible, if we wanted to say 100 or a 300 member choir, which would not be possible right now, or I should say impractical right now, given the way our technology is. But what we're planning on doing, and this is a little further down the line, is having a system where a cloud service such as AWS would receive each of those business and would handle the load, so that when that signal of 300 voices needs to travel, it isn't traveling 300 different streams to the music director. Each individual is traveling just one up to the cloud, and the cloud will have some whiz-bang programming to basically then take that 300 voice group and stream that down to the music director as a stereo signal, which is much more efficient. And they would still have the ability to make adjustments on a piece-by-piece basis, even under 300 channels. What would happen though is the movement of the channel for singer number 150 would be handled up on the cloud, and there'd be an adjustment made on the cloud, and still what gets sent back to the music director is still a stereo feed.
Mm-hmm.
And I think overall, in talking with Antoine, who's our head developer, the reason that the director computer needs to be more powerful than the other computers is that a lot of the load and the processing is happening there. Therefore, we're not putting as much load on the central server. We're using the central server more as a traffic cop that's organizing and sending streams, but a lot of the bandwidth of the number crunching is happening within the director's computer. This is still, we're still in optimization and things like that. So this will evolve as we move.
What computer would you say can handle this on a quartet or a small ensemble?
Yeah, we're recommending a computer that has a minimum of a quad-core CPU. Not to be too technical about this, but it's really a matter of the amount of processing that can happen simultaneously on that machine, and the more the better.
So give us a model, a Mac what or a this what?
I think any MacBook Pro right now, minimum MacBook Pro, is at least quad core. I think
yes.
You can do better than that. I'm not sure if that's true for the MacBook Air, the low MacBook. I have to look it up. It changes regularly.
That's good.
But something like that. I mean, you can get good computers like that on Windows too. But if you don't already have a computer like that, and you're thinking about this for the director role, that's what you're going to want to look for. In addition, of course, to having a good internet connection.
So on the singer end, they can be on an iPad, an iPhone, a computer.
Not with what's out there right now, but the RMS Mix version that I mentioned earlier in the presentation already has a mobile application, both for iOS, iPhone, and iPad, as well as Android. And once that's done, then this Rehearsal Live Share component will be included with the mobile applications.
So right now we need to use it on a desktop. That's the goal, is to be just like the other ones on the app.
Right.
For the moment.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. I noticed we only have like 4 minutes left, and I have about 20 questions, and about 10 of them are fantastic, and the other 10 are merely very good. I think I would cut to maybe a couple of them, but what I'll do is I'll go ahead and build a FAQ of all the questions, and I'll go through them. We'll answer the questions, and we'll post that later. And of course, you can always reach out to RMS. I think overall, I want to make sure all accompaniment must be MIDI at this instant, but as soon as we move it over to RMS Mix, then accompaniment could be piano or any audio recording. Can a pianist record content if the voice teacher is a subscriber? Yes, anyone can record content. You just have to send the audio file to the person that owns the license, and then they can upload it. And do you have, I guess, there was a question about audio compression, and I wanted to get that one in. Jeff, if you want to talk briefly about that, and then we have 3 minutes, and I appreciate the enthusiasm, and I wish we had time to answer all of it right now. But
yeah, I mean, we've experimented with a lot of different compression formats, and obviously the bigger the signal, the more you're straining the system. So when we compress it, we can do more. I think ultimately what we'll probably do is have some settings where you can adjust that, and you'll have some optionality about what kind of signal you want to use within your Rehearsal Live Share session, and you can experiment and see what works depending on the circumstances of how many people you have involved and the kind of equipment involved. So there'll be some choice.
Great. There was one last question, I think, here. This is important, is saying, so you can't have an accompanist play at real time and then have the other people sing along. And at the moment that is true, but we are looking at the idea of serializing synchrony, so that maybe we have a pianist that plays, that then is distributed to all the singers hear the pianist play, and then that goes back to the rehearsal accompanist. These are happening with latency, but overall we're talking about a half second, maybe a second. And this is area that we need to work with, but at the moment our goal is to get this rock solid, to get it to the people that need it, and then to continue to exploit our development team to come up with the stuff that works the best for you.
I want to just add to that, because I think it's a pretty incredible concept, and I'll stress we don't have it yet, but it's something that could be really interesting once we get to that area of development. So right now, if you have a group of singers in a session, participants, all those signals go parallel to the director, and that's where the synchronization happens. But what David is pretending here, what he's theorizing, and what we will work on, is a structure where the director will assign an order to the path. So the director may start by sending the signal to the pianist plays, that synchronized signal then goes to singer number one, that where it's synchronized with the piano and singer number one, that signal then goes to singer two, and it builds and finally returns to the music director. It would be a way to have not everybody, but more people hearing things at the same time. And then ultimately there'd be a fairly latent stream that would get back to the director, but even if it's a second late or whatever it is, it's still synchronized within each other.
This has been excellent, and there's a lot of excitement out there, as on either would be. I still appreciate you guys making the effort to be with us today. This is, as I said, kind of several people have said on the YouTube feed, a little bit of a game changer, I think, for a lot of people, and realizing that, this is just one excellent solution to the problem that we face. And there are many solutions that work for different people in different situations, but I think this one is really nice. It's really well put together. It's really user friendly, and I think it'll be of great use to everyone in the community. So go get your trial download and get started playing with it.
Thank you, Alan.
Thank you guys so much for being here today. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, and thank you everyone for listening to us. We're very excited to work with you.
Absolutely.
And yay, NATS! Go NATS!